welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our brand new stamp set, Critters in the Desert, and its coordinating dies. We are also going to be introducing the brand new Desert Canyon backdrop too, so let's go ahead and check them out. First up, we have Critters in the Desert, and this little guy is a fennec fox, and he's just the cutest thing ever. We also have a roadrunner and a tortoise. We have the world's cutest snake, and then we also have a nice cactus for setting the scene, and we have one more little critter too, and that is this adorable scorpion. We have a smaller cactus once again for setting the scene, and then we have some rocks where you can set the scene or the critters can be standing on the rock too, which is super cute. We have some plants also for helping set the scene, which is so adorable to create these desert landscapes, and a little small rock too. We also have a little flower that you can add on top of the cactuses, and a cake and some candles that's really cute, especially on the tortoise's back. We have these little lines to show the speed behind the roadrunner, so you can kind of stamp it and it looks like he's just zooming across the page, which is so super cute. And then we have two different size smiley faces that you can add to the cactus or the cake, which looks super cute. We have some tiny little phrases. We have thanks and also hiss, which are so cute and funny, and sorry, which are perfect for the snake. We also have meep, of course, for that adorable roadrunner, and then we have shallow for the tortoise, and then we have want to talk, I'm all ears, which is perfect for the fennec fox. We have some great mix and match sentiments. So we have you desert the best, and also I will never desert you. These puns are so fun. We have sorry I'm running late, which is really cute with the roadrunner. And then we have I got you some desert, and then you can add to that for your birthday, or also you can use the phrase to celebrate. And then this is my favorite part. It says, oops, I meant dessert, which is just so cute and funny. Or you can have the critter say, you mean dessert. It's so cute. I love the pun. It just makes me smile, and the cards with it turn out so adorable. There's also a cute tiny little heart and a tiny little sun so that you can create little patterns or maybe even put them next to your sentiments. Now that we have all of these cute desert critters, it's time to add some color to them. And to do that, I'm going to be using my Copic markers, but of course you could use colored pencils, you could use watercolors, whatever your favorite thing to color with is. And so here I'm starting out with that adorable fennec fox, and I like to Google a lot of these critters to kind of get an idea of how to color them. Plus they're just so cute, so it's so much fun to take a look at them. And so I look at real pictures of the roadrunner or the fennec fox, and then I kind of pick out my markers and get inspired by them to add some color. And so I did that with the fennec fox and with the roadrunner too. Of course, I could think of the roadrunner from the cartoons, but I didn't realize that the real roadrunners have a little bit of blue as well. So I wanted to add some blue with kind of some brown over it to blend it in to look just like the real roadrunners, and I think he turned out so cute. Then for this cute little scorpion, I'm going to use some bright reds here, and he is just adorable. I love him so much. Whoever thought a scorpion could be that cute? Then for the tortoise, he looks really cute in greens, olivey greens, and in browns. Everything looks amazing on him. And so I decided to do some bright greens for his body and then some olive greens for his shell. And so I'm just bringing in some shading, and I'm just kind of using the curves of the shell to help me figure out where to put my darkest marker and then blend them out. And of course, my son Miles had to come help me out. He's giving me all sorts of coloring tips, and he brought his little kitty to help supervise all of our critters in the desert coloring here. And so we're just going to keep kind of adding a little bit more shadow. I brought in a darker color just to really make that shell pop. And you can see as I bring in the darker color, you really feel that kind of like three-dimensional shell there. And then for the snake, it's a fun place to bring in all sorts of different colors onto your desert landscapes. And so in this case, I decided to do a really bright kind of yellowy orange. And I think he turned out really cute. I especially like adding all the little spots on him. Next up, we have these super cute cactus. I just love these guys so much. They are just so pretty. I think they'd be beautiful on a card even just with themselves. And of course, they are the best background builders for all of the critters. And so here I'm just adding my darkest marker and then my medium and then my light. And I'm adding some of the light marker kind of in towards the center so that they really feel kind of like these beautiful rounded cactus. And then I'll bring in some browns there for the dirt underneath the cactus. I'll add some pink icing onto the cake and some nice bright red candles, and of course we'll add a little yellow and orange to the flames. And then I'm just going to color in the cake there and add some dots for some texture. And then I'll use some warm grays for the rocks, or you could also use some browns or reddish browns for the rocks too, depending on what you want your desert landscape to look like. And then, of course, I'm going to bring in some color to that cute little flower for the top of the cactus. And then I'm going to use those same greens that I used before on the rest of these kind of desert landscape plants that we have here. And so I'm just going to kind of blend them out. And then I'm adding in the dark marker in the middle of all those leaves and then blending it out to give it that extra texture. And I think it looks really cool like that. So I'm just bringing my lightest markers right over the dark one and blending them out. And I just like all that extra texture. I'll add some pink and yellow to the heart and the sun, and these guys are all colored in now. And so here are the coordinating dies, which you can bend apart at the tabs or use your wire snips to separate. We can take those dies and line them up with our stamped images, hold it in place with some low tack tape, then we can run it through the die cut machine and we will have perfectly cut out images every time. And then here is a look at all of the critters from the set. I love these guys so much, and they are so much fun to mix and match in different scenes. And so we're just going to kind of play around with different things that you can do with them here, like adding the fennec fox on top of the rock or the cake on top of the turtle to go with that whole desert dessert theme. You can layer the little plants behind the critters, which is so cute, and you can mix and match. You could do a card with a ton of roadrunners, or you can do a card where you add in all of the different desert critters together. The cake is super cute on top of the rock too, and I love the flower on top of the cactus. And you can of course put it on the smaller cactus too, and just kind of mix and match and create cute little scenes. It's so much fun to play around with them like this and kind of decide what your scene will be before you create your card. Now here is our desert canyon backdrop, and this backdrop is so gorgeous. It has the backdrop, it has a cute cactus, some rocks, and some little plants, and it has a little scorpion as well, and a little piece to layer behind his eyes. And then it has this little kind of like sand dune creator piece, and you can put that anywhere on your backdrop, run it through the die cut machine. It's going to give you a little sand dune that's like a little pocket that you can tuck things into, like this adorable cactus. So you can see there how you can just tuck that right in. It's just a way to add some extra texture onto your cards. And I like that little piece there. I think I'm going to use it both on the desert canyon, but also on other cards too to create that sand dune feel. We added some tape runner to the back of the scorpion, and then we're going to take that little piece there, and that's going to layer behind it, and it'll add some color to his eyes and mouth, and you can see how cute he is. And then, of course, you can mix and match and play around with the different elements. That little plant covers up the plants that are kind of die cut into those pieces, and then you can see that they're all cut so that you can tuck all your favorite desert critters and desert plants into those little hills. As you can see, you can layer on those flowers, you can tuck the cactus into the sand dune, or you can add the cactuses into the other hills that the backdrop creates. And this backdrop creates a backdrop that's a standard size of 5.5 by 4.25. You can layer that cute little scorpion in there and also these rocks. And then, of course, you can mix and match this with our adorable critters in the desert images too. And I love doing that so much. And so that's what we're going to start doing right here. So I'm going to take my desert canyon backdrop and I'm going to die cut it out of some white cardstock. And we are going to be inking it to create a desert canyon. And I am recreating a card by Tammy right now. So thank you so much, Tammy. And she found that Rusty Hinge created like the perfect rocks for this. So here I just have some Post-its, and I am going to tuck the Post-its right there into the hills there to kind of protect those, because I just want to do the rocks in the background, and then I'm going to do the hill below in a different color. So they're just regular old Post-its, and I just kind of wrapped it right around. Now I can start to bring on that Rusty Hinge color onto the rocks, and you can just see them come to life. It's just so beautiful as you add the ink to them. Now to add a little bit of a definition, I'm bringing in gathered twigs here and just adding some of that brown to the top of this reddish brown. And then I'll go back to the Rusty Hinge color and kind of blend that out. At that point, I wanted there to be a little bit more darkness, so I brought in some walnut stain there just to make it a little bit darker towards the top, and then of course I'll blend it out again with that Rusty Hinge. And what I love about these rocks is no matter how you ink them, they just look absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that so pretty? So now I'm just going to take those same Post-its and I'm just going to protect my rocks now. So I'm just going to kind of tuck those into the hill so that my rocks are protected so that I can start working on the sand. And for the sand, I'm going to use antique linen, tea dye, and vintage photo. So I'm bringing on that antique linen all over the whole thing. And then towards the bottom, I'm bringing on that tea dye color and then the vintage photo. I'm taking a piece of cardstock and just kind of sliding it between the hills so that I can add a little bit of darkness between the hills, which will give them some nice definition on the card. And so I like that I can just kind of take a piece of cardstock and add it just like that. Then I can remove the cardstock that was kind of working like a mask, and I just blended it all out with the antique linen again. And now I'm just going to take one of the browns there and smear it on my mat, add a little bit of water, and pick up that brown ink with my paintbrush and just tap my paintbrush to create some splatters onto the sand, which is going to give it some really, really nice texture and make it really feel like sand. Then we can remove the Post-its and see this beautiful desert canyon now. It's absolutely stunning, and it needs a sunset sky for the background. So I went ahead and trimmed a piece of cardstock to be 5.5 by 4.25, and we're going to create that sunset by mixing saltwater taffy and antique linen. And so I'm going to bring the antique linen on, and you'll see I kept bringing the desert backdrop in, just kind of layer it over to see exactly where I wanted my yellow and my pink. Now the cool thing is when this yellowish color then is going to line up with the pink, we're going to get an orange in between them, and it's a really, really pretty color. And I like by using the antique linen, it kind of coordinates with the sand below. I just think it makes everything look really, really nice. Now, we also need a sun that's actually setting, right? So we're going to take this little circle die here, die cut a circle, and then I'm going to use some squeezed lemonade ink and just add that right onto the circle to create a nice bright yellow sun. And so I'll just kind of add a nice bit of yellow over the whole thing and then a little bit of extra yellow on one side of the sun. And so now you can see the beautiful background there that was so quick and easy to make with the two colors overlapping. And then I have a standard size card base here, so we're going to add some tape runner to that, and then we can layer the sky on top. And then we can start to work on the desert canyon backdrop. And I'm going to be adding a bunch of foam tape and foam squares to the back of it because I want there to be that kind of shadow box feel with the sun setting in the background. This backdrop lines up perfectly with the largest stitched rectangle frame, so I'm going to die cut that out of some white cardstock, and that's going to layer on there perfectly to create this really pretty frame that makes it feel almost like a photo of a desert. I just think it's so beautiful. And then once we add that frame on top, we can start working on the sun. And for the sun, I had to trim off a little bit of the bottom to give it that kind of sunset look, and then I'm just going to tuck it right behind the canyon. Now this beautiful desert needs some super cute critters, so I'm going to bring out the Critters in the Desert stamp set and all of the cute critters that we stamped and colored and die cut earlier. And I'm going to be doing kind of a fun little trick to bring these guys into the scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add some tape runner to the cactus and the plant. I'm going to start adding those into the scene. But at this moment I realized, one, that I wanted to add some white gel pen lines, so I'm going to do that too. And then two, I realized some of my critters that I colored earlier were really bright, which would be super cute for another desert card that I might create, because this one had all of these kind of browns and reddish browns in it. I wanted the critters to match a little bit more. So I'm just taking an E41 marker and going right over that bright red that I colored earlier. And you can see how it really changes it. Here I'm bringing in E42 and I'm just adding a little bit of shadow on the bottom. And then I can blend it out again with the E41, and now he just matches this scene perfectly. I'm going to do the same thing with my tortoise. So I'm just taking the E41 marker and I'm just going all over that bright green, and you can see that it's really going to bring it into the look of that canyon backdrop that we created. And so I can do the same thing where I'm going to blend out again with the E42 and the E41 over the turtle, and I can do the same thing over his shell so that everything coordinates really nicely. So if you ever color something and it's not quite right or it's too bright, bring out a light brown marker and layer it over, and it's going to look so cool. I was really excited how this worked out. I wasn't sure at first, but it turned out so cool. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and add some nice white gel pen lines and make everybody pop on the card. Then I'm just going to add some foam squares to the back of everything so that we can kind of pop the critters, and then we'll have the kind of landscape pieces flat in the background. And so we're going to add that little fennec fox on top of the rock. And I love when the critters are overlapping some. I feel like it just really helps bring them into the scene. And then we'll add some cute little flowers to the top of the cactus. And then we're going to add this adorable little cake in the center because this is going to be a birthday card. And then we're going to add the little candles right on top. And then we can start forming the rest of the scene. And for the cake and the cactus and plant, I'm putting them all with some tape runner so that they're nice and flat, and then all my critters are going to have that pop there. So now we can add that cute little snake on there and our adorable scorpion as well. And these guys together are just so cute in this backdrop. I can't get over how adorable they are. We're going to add one more little rock there to kind of help set the scene and ground that adorable little snake. And then we can add another little flower to that cactus so that it matches the big one on the side. Now that we have this super cute scene all done, we're going to start working on the sentiment. And so for that, we're going to be doing some heat embossing. So here we have some black cardstock and some clear heat embossing ink, and we're going to be stamping the "You Desert the Best for Your Birthday." And we're going to stamp them in two different phrases because we're going to be cutting these out to kind of almost look like one of those Dymo labels. I always love this look. I think it's so cute. So we're going to stamp it in the clear embossing ink. Then we're going to sprinkle on some white heat embossing powder. Then we can just tap off any of the excess and then clean up the mess we made later. And then heat that up with the heat tool and have a nice bright white shiny sentiment. And here you can use your scissors or your paper trimmer to just trim around these two phrases. And I love that they're going to look like these cute little labels that we're going to be able to add into the background. Then I added some foam tape behind these pieces and layered them into the scene at that angle, which I think is so fun. We'll just fix our cute little candles on the cake, and now this card is all done. It is so super cute. It makes me smile so much. I cannot wait to send this to someone for their birthday. And these desert scenes are so much fun to create. And next up, Shari has the cutest desert scene in a platform pop-up. So take it away, Shari.
I'm creating a birthday card with critters in the desert, so I'm also using that little ice cream from the treat cart set. I've already colored and cut out my images, and I'll set those aside so I can work on my platform pop-up pieces. I've cut two of the base pieces as well as the little simple hillside that comes in the original platform pop-up set, and two little hills from the platform pop-up hillside inserts add-on. I've cut everything from kraft cardstock so I have that nice sand look for my desert. But I am going to add some inking to these pieces. So I'm starting with some tea dye distress ink and a blending brush and just adding a little bit of color to the tops of my hillsides. I love adding inking to pieces like this with the stitching detail because I think it makes that stitching detail stand out even more. So this is just going to add some dimension to these little hillsides on the inside, and I won't be adding any other color to these pieces. Now for the outside of my platform pop-up, I wanted to give it the look of the sand and a hillside. So first I'm starting with that same tea dye distress ink right along that top edge with that scallop. And I'm making this part look like the little hills that will be on the inside of the box. Then I'm going to pull out the slimline hillside stencil and we're going to add some hills to the bottom. So I'm using that same tea dye distress ink and I'm just holding this in place with the magnets on my glass mat. And I'm making a little hillside at the bottom. Now for this one, I am going to pull in some vintage photo distress ink as well. So this is a little bit darker and just darken this up a little bit. I have a lot more space to cover, so I think that that really helps kind of make that stand out even more. Now for the second piece, what I'm doing is lining up each side with the one that I have already stenciled, and I'm marking where that hill hits the seam between the two pieces. This way I can kind of use that as a guide to line up my stencil, and I can make it look like this hill is continuous all the way around and doesn't have a break at the seams where the two pieces go together. So once I have that in place lined up with my pencil marks, I can just hold that with my magnets. Now, where I had it, I felt like that dip that goes down went too close to the bottom of the base. So that's why I'm just adjusting it a little bit there. So all I really need to do is connect those two pencil dots with each side of the stencil. So I'm doing the same method here with the tea dye first, and then I'll pull in that vintage photo and make it a little darker. And then I'm just darkening up the top a little bit more. So now those two match and they match up on the sides, and that's going to be a great little box for my platform pop-up. Next, I have the platform pop-up add-on that creates kind of that backdrop for it. And I've cut this from some spiffy speckles paper, and I'm just being very light-handed with some merman ink and adding some cloud details. I don't want this to stand out too much. I just want the suggestion of some clouds in the background. And I'll go ahead and fold that on the score lines and set it aside. Now I have my little T pieces that go inside of my platform pop-up, and I'm adding some of that 1/8 inch double-sided tape to the top. And this is where I will put my little hillsides. And for this one, I am going to go ahead and decorate my little hillsides before I put it in the box. So I'm starting with this little simple hillside that is going to be the front. Then I have this one where it has the tall hill kind of to the right. This is going to be the back. And then this one with the taller hillside to the left is going to be the center. So I'm going to line them up so you can kind of see the way that they go. And now I can start decorating. And I kind of planned out ahead of time where I wanted the pieces to go. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and do this with them outside of the box. So I have that large cactus and the rock in the back, and I'll also add this cute little scorpion to the rock. So all of this little composition is kind of focused on the right side of this hill. And then on the next one that's going to go in front, I will make my little composition to the left side. So we kind of have alternating little scenes here. And I will go ahead and fold that on the score line. And for this one, I'm actually going to cut it off because it's going to go in the center of the box, so I don't need that little tab. And then for the front, I will go ahead and fold that. And this is where I'm going to add my little Roadrunner. And yes, I did color my Roadrunner like the cartoon Roadrunner. I just thought it would add a nice pop of color to our desert scene. And then this little ice cream, I'm going to add it to his back like he's bringing it, but he's late and he's running really fast. So I'm going to tilt it like it's about to fly off. Now that my inserts are done, I can work on the main box of my platform pop-up. So I'm just folding on all of the score lines that the die creates and reinforcing those with my bone folder. But before I assemble this whole thing together, I'm going to stamp a sentiment on the front. So I'm stamping the sentiment that says, sorry, I'm running late. And then from the treat card stamp set, I'm going to grab the words happiest birthday. So happiest birthday, sorry I'm running late. And I'm just picking that up on a block, making sure it's nice and straight. And I'm going to stamp this in some black ink right there on that front panel. You could also use the little panel that comes in the platform pop-up set, but I kind of wanted it to not cover up my desert hillsides that I had created. So now I'm adding my double-sided tape to the little tabs, and I like to take it and fold it up and attach that tab to the inside of the box. So now I have two matching pieces. Then I can add my little inserts, and I am going to add some adhesive to the tab. And since this is the front, I'm going to make sure it's facing away from me. And I always like to make sure that the adhesive is facing the table, and that way I always know it's going to be in the right spot. So since this is the back, it's going to face toward me, but the adhesive is still facing towards my desktop. And then for the center insert, I can just add adhesive to the whole T, and then I'll add adhesive to that whole square so I can assemble these together. I like to start by putting one side of that wraparound piece together. So I'll just butt these together and fold that flap over. Then I line up the two center rectangles, and then I finish it off by pulling off that last tab and adhering those two together. Now I need to add my little background sky, but when I put this in here, I felt like it was too stark of a transition between the bottom of the box and the sky. So I'm pulling out that same stencil that I used to create the hills on the outside of the box. And this time I'm going to use some Distress Oxide ink. This is Scorched Timber, and it will cover up that blue sky since I'm using the oxide ink with the pigment properties, and will create a hill off in the distance. And I liked the way this looked, but I wanted to create those looks of the layers of hillsides off in the distance. So I'm just figuring out where I want my stencil to go to kind of overlap and create some more hillsides. Once I settled on this placement, I'm using some vintage photo distress oxide to add another layer of brown ink. And then since it kind of changes the color, I'm just flipping it back over and adding that same tone right to that dark hill so that it matches the rest. And then I like the way this looked a lot better. I thought it gave a nice transition. Now, of course, we need a sun in the sky, so I'm pulling out some lemon yellow glitter paper and just a circle die cut, and I'm adding a sparkly sun to the sky, and I just think that is a nice touch to add that glitter sun. I did still have some adhesive on the back, so I'm just removing that with my adhesive eraser, and then I can add my 1/8 inch double-sided tape right along the bottom of this background piece. I like to make sure it's nice and burnished down with my bone folder. Peel off that liner paper, and then you just tuck this right inside the lip of that platform pop-up box. I also like to flatten it and burnish that down as well and make sure it's nice and adhered. And then here is the finished desert scene in that platform pop-up box with that cute little roadrunner who is running late to the party.
Oh my goodness, this card is so cute. The little roadrunner running on the platform pop-up, I can't. It's so adorable. And I just love this set so much. I had to create another card because I really wanted to make a night scene. So here I've die cut the desert canyon backdrop out of some yellow textured cardstock. And so we're going to start with this bright yellow and then build color up on it to create this kind of like glowy scene. And right now I was inspired by a card by Yanea, so thank you so much, Yanea. So here I have some spice marmalade, but really any orange on top of yellow cardstock would work. And I'm just using this little piece of cardstock here as a little mask so that I can add some shadow to the bottom of all of those hills. And then I'm just going to bring the orange up onto the rocks, and you can see how beautiful that's looking. Now we're going to bring in candy apple, but any bright red would do too. And so I like the yellow, the orange, and the red. We're kind of building up this kind of glowy background as if the rocks were really being lit up at nighttime. I think this is just so beautiful. And then now here we're going to bring in gathered twigs, which is a nice brown, and that's going to take those colors and just dull them just a little bit to make them kind of blend into the rocks and look really, really beautiful. And I'm just loving how that's looking. And then here we have that awesome stitched rectangle frame, and I've die cut it from some black licorice cardstock. And I wanted to layer that over top just to see how it was looking. And I think it's looking pretty cool now. So the next thing I want to do is work on the sky. And just like we started with a color of cardstock for the desert canyon, we're going to start with a color of cardstock here for the background. And we're adding on Mermaid Lagoon, and then Chip Sapphire, and then Black Soot. And by starting with a color of cardstock, it makes it really, really easy to blend up this color. Like creating this background sky and creating the desert canyon didn't take me long at all because I had that colorful base. And you can see I keep layering the desert canyon on top and seeing if I like how it looks. And I was really liking that night sky. By putting the black all around the edges, it gives that feel of night, but by leaving it light in the center, it just makes it feel like the sun is just set. It's just so beautiful and so gorgeous. The next step is to take that rectangular frame that we die cut from black licorice cardstock earlier and add that onto the scene. So I'm just going to add some tape runner onto that and then layer that right on top to get this really cool black frame that's going to make it even feel more like a nighttime scene. Now next I'm going to work on those cute little plants there, and originally I used some dark brown and black cardstocks to make it look kind of like it was shadowed, but I just thought there wasn't enough of a pop of color on these, so I decided to bring in a bright green and an olive green instead, and so I just kind of layered them on top of them, and it worked out great. It kind of almost created like a cute little shadow on there, so I'm just going to layer those olive ones right on top, and I think it's looking so beautiful. And right now at this moment was the moment where I realized I probably should have heat embossed my sentiment a little while ago, but I forgot. So we're going to do it now and it's all going to work out okay. So I'm going to put it in my Misty tool here and I'm going to take out my super cute sentiment which says, "I will never desert you," and I'm going to put that right there in the center of the canyon. Then I can pick it up with the door of my Misty. And then I'm going to make sure to prep this with an anti-static powder tool because I didn't want any of that white heat embossing powder to get anywhere else on my card. And then I can ink it up with some clear embossing ink. We can stamp the sentiment and then sprinkle on some white heat embossing powder and then heat it up with the heat tool. And thank goodness it all worked out. And I think it looks really, really cute there in the center of the sky. now it's time to fill this desert canyon with cute images from critters in the desert. So I'm going to layer in some bright green cactus and one of the plants. And the bright green I thought was a really nice pop of color in this scene. And then at this point, I kind of wished I had splattered some white paint as stars in the background, but I was a little too nervous to try to splatter paint now because I didn't want to get it all over the rest of the card. So I decided to add in some stars with a white gel pen. And I kept adding stars, and I just kind of couldn't stop, but it was looking pretty cute. And so at this point, I thought, you know what? This needs a cute critter. So I'm going to add this adorable roadrunner there right into the center of the card. And then I looked and I just couldn't help myself. I had to add more and more stars. I just keep adding more stars with the white gel pen. And I think it turned out really, really fun. And there you go. See, I just couldn't stop. I kept adding more and more and more. But now the card is all done. And I think it's so cute. And it was so much fun to add the inking to the sky and to that gorgeous canyon backdrop. And now Shari is going to have the cutest birthday card with my favorite sentiment on it. So take it away, Shari.
So for my Critters in the Desert card today, I'm adding in a little speech bubble, but I've already colored and cut out all of my images for my card, and I will set those aside. I'm using some pattern paper from the Pint Size Patterns Summertime collection. I'm using that green with the stripe and that yellow with the grid. And I'm also going to pull in this blue color from Watercolor Wishes. I think this will make a great desert sky because it kind of looks like clouds. So for this card, I am using the new Cactus Hillside border die. I think this is such a fun die with those cute cacti. And I will be cutting each of these panels out with the largest of the outside in stitched rectangle. I only needed a portion of the green, so is what you see there. It's not a full rectangle. And the way I like to cut this border is I like to start with the layer on top, which you cut with that single line. You do get this really fun dotted stitching detail. And then I like to line these up just like this, take the cactus border and kind of stack it to where it hits the top of that die cut, and then it will line up perfectly with the piece of paper that layers over top. So just like this. Now before I adhere these together, I wanted to add some inking to the edges. So I have some number 2 pencil ink, and I'm just adding this to the top of my sand of my desert here at the bottom, which that kind of gives it a nice dark edge. And then I am doing the same with my cacti. So I have some jalapeno ink, and I'm being very gentle with my blending brush just to add a hint of dark ink to the tops of the cacti. And I just think that gives them some nice dimension. That's looking really good, but I did want to make it stand out just a little bit more, and I'm pulling out some Noble Fur ink and a little blending brush, and I am blending those little succulents that are close to the ground. Now I'm just being careful to make sure I don't hit my cacti, but I don't really need to worry about getting ink down below the ground line because it's going to be covered up just like this. So I've added my adhesive, and I am just layering these two pieces together, and look how beautiful those cacti are on that blue sky. Now I've just put these in my MISTI for placement. They're not glued down yet, but I want to stamp my sentiment in the sky. So I like to see where everything is going to fall for placement of the sentiment. And the sentiment I'm using for this card says, "I got you some desert for your birthday," which I just think is kind of funny. So I've just placed that where I want them to be, picked it up with the door in my MISTI. I remove my cactus just in case there's some rogue ink. I don't want it to mess them up. And then I'll just stamp that in some black ink. And while I'm stamping sentiments, here's my little speech bubble, and I'm stamping the sentiment from the Critters in the Desert set that says, "You mean dessert." So now I can add my background piece to my card base, and I have that nice white border because I used the outside in stitch rectangle. And then I've added foam all over this cactus border. That thin foam that we have in the lawnfawn shop for our Give It a Whirl works perfect behind those cacti, by the way. Now I can start to add my little critters. So I have the little fox on his rock, and I will just glue him directly to the paper so it's kind of popped up on the same level as the cacti. I'll do the same with my little snake that's going to go over on the right side. And then I also have the little cake that I need to assemble as well. So you can have the cake or you can add the little candles. So I'll just put a little bit of liquid glue right along the bottom of the candles and tuck that behind the cake. And I'll be putting this over near the snake because he looks like he's blowing out the candles with his tongue sticking out. And since this kind of overlaps up into the sky, I am adding a little foam square there. Now for my other animals, I have this little scorpion and he has some foam, so he's popped up in front of the images that are behind him. I have this little succulent plant over here, which I colored pink for some extra color. And then I have the big tortoise. And I'm just going to pop him right there in the center. Now, for my little speech bubble, originally I thought the fox could be saying it, but I felt like it got in the way of my sentiment. So, what I decided was to put it over here and make it look like the cactus is correcting their grammar. And I would have stamped this before I put the cactus on if this had been my plan originally, but there is a tiny smiley face in this set, and I added it to the cactus that is correcting their grammar. I also am adding the little hiss right above the cake so it looks like the snake is blowing out the candles. And then, of course, on the inside, we can stamp the sentiment that says, "Oops, I meant dessert," which I just think is really funny because we have the cactus correcting them, and then the inside has that cute little sentiment about dessert. Now I've added some little hearts cut from guava cardstock, and I will just add some glitter to those. I like the little pops of pink that it brings to this card. I'm also adding glitter to the cake and the candles, of course. And so here is my finished Critters in the Desert card. I love that cactus hillside. I think it goes perfectly with this set. And I just think the little punny sentiments about desert and dessert are just so much fun.
Oh my goodness, Shari, this card just makes me smile. It's so cute, and the sentiment makes me laugh every single time. And next up, we have some incredible cards by the design team. And this card by Audrey is absolutely stunning. I love the background she created and her cute fennec fox. This card by Maureen is so gorgeous. I love her background and the big sentiment in the new stitched banner. And then I love that Maureen was so inspired by this set. She created this super cute birthday card, and I love the Roadrunner running away with the cake. It just makes me smile. This card by Elise is so much fun. I love the dessert theme. It's just adorable. And then this card by Megan is so beautiful. I love the bright turquoise with the reddish rocks. Oh my gosh, it's just gorgeous. This platform pop-up by Grace is so pretty. I love how she used parts of the desert canyon backdrop on the background of the platform pop-up. And then this card by Mindy is so beautiful. I love the sky that she created. This is the card by Tammy that inspired me to make mine today. This one is so adorable and so sweet. And then here is the card by Yanea that inspired us to make mine that just blew me away. I love her nighttime scene. This card here by Elena is so pretty. I love how she layered the cactuses into the canyon. I think it's just gorgeous. And then here, I love how Letitia added the rocks onto her card without the frame. It looks so cool. And then this card here by Rebecca is so sweet. I love that fun stitched sun in the background. It's just gorgeous. So we cannot wait to see all of your Critters in the Desert cards, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!